and we have compiled these queries and sent it to NCL team also. Varinderji will take it for our clients. I sincerely thank you again and hope if needed, we'll have few more webinars till our members have a understanding and feel comfortable in executing it. I request our members to please write to us for that if they require more programs on this. Sir, common query of our members is from client is that money should be considered for all segment. So although why they have to move it from one segment to another, Varinderji will take it. We understand there is a technicality to it, but going forward, we have to discuss with the regulator and CCs and you people to tackle this technical issue for for smooth operation. I know there are separate SGA for different segment. So last occasion we had 500 participants. I hope many of our members' queries are resolved or going to be resolved in today's program. Last time, sir, you said that come Monday, many operational issue will be fixed, and we would like to hear from you, Mr. Kothari. Thank you.
No, thank you, Adwa. So I think on the first thing that you mentioned about the single pool account and rather than the segment based, as you put it right, sir, it's not only about the technical aspects, it's also about the legal aspects. But certainly we are very open to looking at it and discussing this with SEBI in the future. And we will be taking it up and we completely understand the way I think the segregation is going. I think it will become far more efficient if that pool structure is looked at. But yes, we will initiate the discussions on that and we will come back to you. Uh, yes, in the first week of Go Live, there was a lot of gaps in terms of understandings, etc., as well as things were also being minor niggles which were being faced are also being fixed. But I'm sure that effective Monday, in fact, during this week, a lot of things have been now put into a very smooth operation in smooth manner. In fact, this week has been fairly very good. What we've seen is a lot also from an understanding perspective of how the things have been done. There's been a phenomenal development in terms of the way members have understood the framework, the screens, and how it's going to happen out. So there's been a significant amount of movement on all the sides, and certainly, in fact, 90 questions. I'm sure the team and good part is the team has already received it. Huzefa is there, Renu is there. So I would like to hand it over to maybe you or Virenderji to take it forward on the question and answers, sir. But thank you very much for the support. And yes, there are things when such a big change happens, we also realize certain things the way they were planned to be done may not be the right approach. So we are, as we move forward, we are changing a lot of things as well to make it far more efficient for the members as we move forward. So we'll continue to do that as we move forward based on the feedback that we keep receiving. Thank you very much once again for all the support from all the members and CPAI.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, Varinderji, to take up the issues and questions.
Yes, thank you, Vikramji, and it's really a pleasure to interact with you. I understand you have a very busy schedule, but a lot of members' queries get resolved during these discussions, and therefore it is helpful both sides. And I'll not take much of the time, and we will just start from the beginning. So what we try to do is, instead of just putting all questions randomly, what we have tried to do is try to take up the questions which are the most common first, so that more queries can be resolved in that manner. And actually the first question and the most common question is the one which Bhadwaji raised, that why we are not having fungibility of capital across the segments. So what I want to explain, and I will explain to several members and then you can add subsequently, the basic concern is that the settlement guarantee fund of each segment is legally separate. So for example, if there is a member who trades only in cash market, and if there is a default in the currency or F&O segment, he cannot be made party or made to share that loss as a pool in the settlement guarantee fund. And till this legal issue is resolved, I mean, tomorrow, if there's a default in one segment and not in the other, how will the customer funds be allocated in the event of default, this happens to be the biggest challenge. The second aspect which I want to highlight to members is that actually this is not a new structure. This is the way things have always been. It's a different thing that members had a fungible pool of capital and they never felt the hit of looking at it from customer being in that particular pool for that particular segment. But now that this regulatory requirement has come in, we will have to be conscious of this. At the same point of time, as an association, we have been engaging with the regulator and we'll also look forward to NCL and NSE also taking up to see what can be done to reduce the friction of this process. Because on a practical operational level, most clients do not visualize it as a segment and just think of it as a single pool of capital which they have placed with the brokers. So if you would want to add anything, Vikramji, then otherwise we'll move to the next question.
No, Virendraji, I think you've captured it absolutely well. Thank you.
And Varindaji, I would like to add here that with our persistent communication and engagement with SEBI, we have got some relief as far as this margining for intraday, volatility. So it will be on the BOD basis for the previous day. Varindaji, can you just expand that also?
Okay, so I'll just for clarification of the members, one of the biggest problems was that if a client had taken a position, he had given 100 rupees and built a position of 100 rupees margin, and intraday the margin on that security went up and became 120. There was a shortfall, and with peak reporting, this problem is there that if it becomes 120 during the day and you even square off the position of the client, there is still going to be penalty on the 20 rupees which the margin increased. So we represented to the regulator and said he was kind to consider this. And now what they will do is they will calculate the margin on basis of the previous day's end of day span 5. So that doesn't change during the day. So if you built a position at 100, you can, for purposes of reporting only, consider it to be compliant. Of course, the CC will continue to charge 120 rupees margin, but there will be no penalty on the client and the broker for this. So this is a small nuance which we need to be aware. And the second thing which we need to aware, this will be starting from the phase 2 of the allocation, and it doesn't start tomorrow. So there are 2 months more, around 2.5 months more, after which this will become effective. You want to add anything, Vikramji?
No. Okay.
Oh, fine. So, Josefa and Vikramji, the biggest and the most common challenge which our members are facing is there is no real-time report to see what is the client margin being used for a particular segment in real time. What you get at the end of the day file also doesn't really give us that full visibility in a single shot, but we get to know. But the basic challenge for members today is intraday. So what our submission and our request is, in the previous week also we had requested that some reports could be there. So one of our members has suggested a particular format, and we just like you to have a look at it. So if a report like this is available for download as CSV on a button, or is available to visible to be seen by the members when they need, it will be extremely useful that if we can have these columns wherein we are seeing what is the final cash collateral, non-cash collateral of the customer, how much of that is being blocked against the margin which has been used by the customer in that particular segment. If all this report can be just downloaded on Excel, then members will be able to actually track. One of the reasons why members are still hesitating doing all the allocation is because they do not have a real-time ability to assess, which client has used, what they need to allocate, what they don't need to allocate. And this is proven to be a big bottleneck. So if you could just update us, whether you are looking at something like this or something, and how fast you can get this. Because without this, we really don't want to be flying blind. Josefa or Vikramji?
Josefa, you want to take that? I'll just check if he's on mute or. He's not able to unmute himself, Mansukani ji.
Yeah,
Muzaffar is trying.
Rishant, can you just please unmute? Could
Hello.
anyone please
Yeah.
tell?
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
Muzaffar,
yes,
Yeah.
Suzaifa.
So, sir, we understand that. So, anyway, one detailed breakup of, like you said, end of day report we are providing, which gives us breakup of client-wise cash allocated, cash equivalent pledge, non-cash pledge, and the margin of that client. What here I think what we are you are asking is much more detailed one, which will look into the feasibility of it. At least what we are providing end of day, we will start. We are working to ensure that at least that information is available intraday also. And what additional we can add it in that we will see as to in terms of feasibility, because on a real time basis at a client level getting so much information also will be an overhead. So we will have to work out on pros and cons on that and see what best information we can provide, sir. So that, like I said last week also, we have started work on that. You give us some time and we will be able to provide that information intraday on NMAS.
Okay, if please try to expedite whatever information you can give us fast. At least start giving us that so that we have some visibility. And this will also enable members to understand that 50-50 allocation, how it is impacting them during the day. So right now we really just are dependent on the end of the day basis to see who has used what, but intraday a lot of customers use and we don't have clarity who should allocate, we should not allocate.
Yes, I got it, sir.
Okay. So the other issue, which as an operational issue, Josefa, which members are facing is that when you are trying to modify the total capital. So one of the members shared the screenshot with us, and he said, "Look, this is how big the screen is to modify the capital up and down, and in the small digits the numbers are very random, and he has to go and now modify 1.5 crore up or down. He can make a punching mistake anywhere in this." And if he makes a small punching mistake, his terminal could go into RRN. So, from a user perspective, if you just give us a up down button to reduce or enhance the capital by a round number, it will be practically operationally far more easier. The way this number is, I mean, technically functional, but as you can see from the screen layout, from a user interface, it's not a very intuitive user interface, and it creates a lot of difficulty for operational perspective.
Noted, sir. Basically, the screen was never intended only. It was always the files and API which were intended, because it is supposed to be at a client level and everybody has to do at a end client level. So always the files and API were intended. This was a addition so that we can, people, if they have only one or two clients, the screen facility is there. But noted, sir, we will see what best we can do on that, sir.
Yeah, we understand, in some of the CCs, the functionality is not available on the user interface, and that's a big plus working on NCL. It makes life easier. But, we always want to make our life even more easier. So that's why we are requesting you. Okay. A similar suggestion came from the members that, if we want to move the capital across segments, I hope you are able to see my screen, because I have enabled screen sharing so that, everybody is looking at the same image and it's easier to understand.
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next suggestion which came to us is that, if we want to amend the capital and move it across, instead of the file format, and typically this problem is there, when I see a particular customer that, in cash market he has used fully and in F&O he has not used fully, and I want to move immediately. If there is some kind of a quick UI from where I can, move from segment cash to future or future to cash, this can become very useful for the members. I understand if somebody has 1 lakh customers, this is not viable. But there are several members who do not have so many customers and they need to move across a few customers very fast across segments. At that time, this kind of a UI, if you can allow, will make life much easier for those members.
Fine, sir. Noted, sir. We will take those suggestions and check on the feasibilities, because so many things we'll have to prioritize and see which we can handle first, sir. But definitely noted, and we'll keep them in the list, sir.
And one last suggestion is that we must have a real-time report window for clients where more than say 70% margin has been used. Of course, this is in a way a subset of the first report. So if you are giving us that on a quick downloadable CSV file format, then we are not really worried. But if that is not available, what we really want to see is which of the clients have exceeded a threshold, so that we can monitor their positions and their limits, etc., more tightly.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So now I'll come to some of the examples, and I'm sorry, a lot of members are asking questions in the Q&A, but these questions have come ahead of the event, and therefore these need to be addressed first, and then we will definitely try to solve for most of the questions, and there's a large number of questions there, but we'll try to solve for these questions. Okay, so coming back, so one of the interesting questions which one of the members shared with us is that currently many members are not allocating to the customer on the assumption that this is perhaps equally efficient, but there are some cases where we believe that it is more efficient to allocate the capital. So in this particular example, if the CM Prop had a cash of 70 and had only one client who has given non-cash of 100, so if the CM Prop allocates 50, then client 1 can go up to 100 in margin and the balance 20 can be used by Prop. The question is, if there is no allocation, if there is no allocation, what is the maximum margin up to which the client can go?
There is no restriction on client trading as such by us. Only thing is that anything beyond client collateral. So in this example, let's assume the total non-cash which can be supported is 70. So 70 becomes eligible, and so 90% of 70, anything beyond 90% of 70 will start getting used from the proprietary cash. So there is no say we don't restrict anything at the client level, but ideally what will happen is that in this given example, since there is a 70 cash at proprietary level and there is 100 non-cash, the actual non-cash which will be eligible will be 70. And the moment the margins of the client goes beyond 90% of the 70 unused, it will start getting blocked from the members proprietary collateral.
So for example, if client goes up to a full 100 in terms of margin, anything above 63 will be blocked from the cash collateral.
Yes, yes.
So we will the band will be 37 by 70 for the client.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So correspondingly till 63, from 37 to 63, PM Prop can trade. Is that correct? Because there have been multiple experiences of members, saying that when the non-cash has exceeded the cash component, they feel that they are not able to trade any further.
Yes. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ashok ji.
Ashok ji, namaskar.
Ashok, in this question, if you have anything to add, then you can add in the question if you want to add.
So this is that is how it is working. In case specific examples or somebody has saying it other way around, then they can share with us and we'll check it out, sir. But as for theoretically, it will work that way, that till 63 it will be from client, and beyond that it will get from proprietary.
Okay.
So Virender ji, can you ask this for 50-50 allocation? I mean, 50-50 cash and the non-cash can apply here from the NCL angle, or can they restrict that?
Everybody clarified that above 63, whatever is the margin of the client will get into the numerator for RRM. Whatever is margin above 90% of that 70, that is 63, will go into the numerator, and the denominator will remain as 70. And correspondingly, the RRM band will be computed for the member. Okay, and so we received a lot of questions, Josefa-ji, and you have mentioned it in the last time, but many members still want a clarity, the order in which that capital will get blocked between cash, non-cash, and then going to TM Prop. So if you could just clarify once more, so that the doubts can be removed from the members' mind.
So basically what we do is that we arrive at the effective deposit of the client. So whatever client's effective deposit is there, so that if client's effective deposit we compute at 50-50, and from the total amount we block. So it is like every time a margin comes, from the total it gets blocked, and anything beyond the cash component will go and we'll check from the whether sufficient cash is available either at TM level or CM level. If sufficient cash is there, then to the extent of the 90% of the excess non-cash, it will get blocked from the non-cash, and subsequently it will get blocked from the cash component. So 50% will get blocked from the non-cash, 50% from the cash at all point of time. So basically giving a simple example, let's assume you have 100 rupees of margins in the system. You need to have 50 will be get blocked from the non-cash and 50 from the cash.
Okay.
So if the client does not have any cash, then that 50 will get blocked from the TM or the CM.
Sir, on this weekly expiry day, many clients trade in the weekly expiring contracts. And at 3:30, because the contract expires, actually there is no open position, but the margin system doesn't drop the margin on those transactions at 3:30 sharp. So the question is, can members unallocate margin from such clients at 3:30 because clients may have given cash intraday and they want it back for the same day release. So and this is a theme which is going to reoccur across weeks.
Yeah. So,
So-
here, sir, this
Okay,
issue used to happen earlier also, irrespective of the client allocation coming in or not. So earlier also members used to ask for a end of day release request where post the dropping of margins, we used to check for margins and release the collateral. So here also similarly what members can do, we have this specifically for this specific reason of this expiry, we have this EOD allocation where members can do a downward allocation for the clients with an EOD option. So intraday, if they do an intraday downward, it will get rejected because there is sufficient, there is a lot of margins in that. So the request will get rejected. They can put those requests with end of day option. What we will be doing is that once the end of day margins are computed, post reducing the expired position, then using that we will process this allocation, and the money will come free in the pool account, and parallelly member would have requested for end of day release, and which will get processed. So like similarly what they used to do prior to allocation, where on such days member used to put for an EOD cash release, they have to put two things. One is an EOD downward allocation request using the EOD option, and one is an EOD request for cash release on SIP, which will be processed after only we process the EOD allocation, which will ensure that the margin gets free, the allocation also gets free, and then the cash will get released.
And what will happen if there is a partial releasable amount? How will that be handled?
So if there is a partial releasable amount, if at a client level, if it is a partial releasable amount, it may not happen. But whatever gets released and available in the pool, to that extent, cash release will definitely happen.
Specifically for the client, because there are so many client codes, and it might be very difficult for a member logistically to validate post reduction of that position where the margin will lie.
Yeah. So currently there is no partial because it is very difficult to determine as to what partial should be done and to what extent it should be done. So we will have to monitor. Maybe we will have to going forward see how we can provide an if there is any rejection in EOD, whether we can provide a subsequent request or something like that. But that we will have to see how things work out. So
Yeah, because your system will otherwise stop accepting requests at 6 p.m.
yes, sir.
So maybe on expiry days, if you can think of keeping it open till the time you have processed those requests, and then members can see and change the allocation amount post that reduction of final expiry margin.
So basically, we have already had 2 expiries, and we have worked on those experiences, and we have seen. So we have not seen any rejections as happening because of this margins not, or any at least member cash release. I'm not checked on the client allocation whether anyone has got rejected or not. But at least on member cash releases, we have seen that people have got the sufficient amount in the pool, and they've been able to process whatever they have requested for release. So member level cash release have moved smoothly. So the same thing we happened last week also and yesterday also. So people would have seen that wherever they have put EOD releases, at least in FNO and post their EOD reallocation downward, they were able to take the cash release and they've got that money also.
Varinderji, extending your question, say on the settlement day, your EOD happens late at night. So what would be the timeline in that case, basically? Huzaifa ji, this is for you.
Sir, so accepting request timeline is 6 o'clock, but we ensure that we process those requests only after we have the EOD margins.
So essentially they are saying they will process and they will ensure, no, because the problem is you have to release in the bank and the banking system
Doesn't work.
is no longer available after say 9 p.m. And so if the ABC is not released by 9, then members are not able to process that payment back to their customers.
Yeah. So yeah, we had that situation yesterday. So we have been handling it operationally as of now, but we will try and streamline that, sir.
Okay.
So the other common question which members have is that the allocation which members are expected to do in enhanced supervision is actually moving in a different silo, and this is in a different silo. And so the question is, what is the maximum capital which a member can allocate to the customer, and what is the minimum amount which the member can allocate to the customer, and what is the regulatory expectation around that, specifically phase wise. Basically members are concerned about whether it can lead to a penalty if they are today allocating 100 rupees, whereas client customer in enhanced supervision they have reported as 1000 rupees, or vice versa. In the case a client has been released funds intraday and the allocation was 1000 here, and whereas in the enhanced at the end of the day it was 100 because he released 900 to the customer. So I just want you to frame this and explain to the members so that they are not unnecessarily worried.
So maybe I think we'll have to answer it in both the ways, from the compliance and from the operation side also. So from operation, basically from monitoring side, intraday the phase wise it is very clear. The monitoring is that whatever is the minimum margin requirement, that much amount of allocation has to be there in the system. And in terms of phase wise, the first phase of checking it against the EOD margins will start from 1st August. And if there is shortfall in allocation compared to the margin which is required. So allocation, there is, I think, one confusion is that allocation, what is an allocation? Allocation is over and above the value of securities which are pledged. So anyway, if the value of securities are already pledged, they are considered as client collateral and they will be adjusted against the minimum margin requirement. If that value is lesser than the minimum margin, then you have to have an additional allocation to ensure that the total allocated value plus your securities value should meet the minimum margin requirement. So that, I think, one thing which people should understand. And second is where we will start checking on an intraday basis at a peak margin time snapshot, where the allocation should match with the peak margin snapshot. We'll start somewhere in February 2023. With regard to, I think, Renu, if you can answer regarding whether what are the expectations in the reporting part of it.
See, like Josefa mentioned, on the allocation side, for reporting part, if there are certain securities which are not covering under approved securities and you are doing some kind of an allocation, ultimately margin has to be sufficing as per the requirement, whatever you are reporting, and it should cover the securities as well as your ledger balance of the client. If that is sufficing, then how you are actually allocating here is no issues, because reporting has to be as per the availability of the securities and the ledger balance.
So can I summarize and say that margin compliance reporting is the way it was earlier. There is no
Yeah.
change there. And this allocation, at least for these 3 months, even if it is less or more, there is no correlation for these first 3 months in the phase 1. From phase 2, that correlation will be expected on end of day basis. Is that a correct summary?
Yes.
Reporting, there is no change as of now.
So illustration of this query is, for example, many members have asked, if we have received funds or paid funds intraday from clients or to clients, is it mandatory that we change the allocation on the portal before releasing the funds, or if we have received funds intraday, do we necessarily need to update even if the client is not trading on that day?
Then I think Huzefa, you can add to, because if you are doing a comparison to both, then of course here the different balance would be something else, and there the balance would be something else. Currently, we are going by reporting as per the ledger balance and the securities which are under pledge and repledge.
So here also, like I said, in phase one, we are not going to check intraday. If there is shortfall, there is no penalty. But end of day, at least the allocation should be equal to the margin requirement. So if you have received funds and the the client is traded, then up till the margin requirement, the allocation would be required.
Okay, but is there any penalty if that allocation has not been done in phase one?
So phase one, if by EOD the allocation has not happened and the total value of securities plus the allocation of a client is less than the minimum margin required at end of day, then definitely there will be penalty.
In phase one, it is even in August.
From August 1st. We're not talking as of today, from August 1st.
From 1st August, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so till 1st August, it is not a problem in terms of penalty, but from 1st August, it will start becoming a problem. Okay. So, Renuji, the other related question is, is this data of what is reported, say, today end of day and tomorrow T+1 BOD, and what is reported in enhanced supervision, is it being correlated in any manner by exchanges as of today?
See, currently, Mansukhaniji, we are not doing any correlation, but we are planning to stop this cash and cash equivalent data going forward. So we are just working with CC. If one or two columns which are not existing here, if we include that also, then that data will not be required. So everything will be calculated from here only. Suppose you are looking at margin and you are taking a ledger balance, we'll consider this ledger balance only. And similarly, while looking at the calculation of creditors availability on aggregate basis, which we do currently, that also we will be doing it considering this data only. So currently we're not doing any correlation, but going forward, we plan to discontinue the cash and cash equivalent submission.
Okay, so say for example, from phase 3, when everything is expected to be totally real time, you will stop asking for uploads and will use this as the benchmark for even your compliance purposes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right. That's good to know that at least one level of upload will get removed from our compliance checklist.
Yeah.
So next question is, Huzefa, very specific, that and it's also equally from a compliance perspective, that can member allocate from the non-funded part of BG to any client. And this member had a specific query, there was annexure 2 in the SEBI circular from where this example was taken, that if client 1 and client 2 have given 100 to the member, and the member makes a BG of 400 and submits to CC, and he receives 150 worth non-pledgeable stock from client 3, is this allocation appropriate, or if there is any concern if the member were to allocate in this fashion?
So I think the circular clearly says that the non-funded part is the proprietary of the member and can be allocated towards clients.
Okay, thank you. So in respect of that uploading that file, so one of the questions which has come commonly is, can we just as have a EOD upload, can we have a BOD upload, so that we can do tomorrow's file upload today itself, what will be effective from tomorrow morning? Is it possible in any manner to do this?
So basically, we are not expecting people to re-upload everything. So whatever has you have uploaded as EOD will continue as BOD. So I think that facility itself is available. Whatever you expect to be available as BOD, you can upload it as EOD also, because we will just simply carry forward the same.
No, the problem typically is in cash market, where every day a new settlements exposure gets dropped. and therefore that allocation is not required, and member wants to optimize on his capital allocation correspondingly.
So that BOD checks will not happen. So see, through today, if you're going to reduce that exposure of the settlement, which is dropping tomorrow next day, it will fail definitely, because the CC does not drop margins at BOD for the settlement. It drops only at 11 o'clock. So if it is for that purpose, the BOD will not serve.
Yeah, because actually, that is the other common question which members have, that on T+2 day, when they can actually account for the droppage. And of course, you are broadcasting a message once you drop the exposures, but then that is becoming actually a very big challenge, because it's possible that once it has been dropped, the client may have built another position against the same, and then again that file could get rejected. So somewhere some systemic solution has to come for the exposure of T-2, whereby members can drop that. Otherwise, it is getting into this loop that by the time they do it, the customer has taken some more position and that file gets rejected.
Yeah, that is true. So, but at least what we have been started doing is that, for members to make aware as to when we have dropped the margins, we send a message on NMAS saying that the margins for so-and-so settlements have been dropped. And that can be used as an indicator by members to decide when to drop the margins or when to change the allocation.
Okay. So also, is it open on Saturdays or any other non-working days?
No, sir.
Okay, so Uzefa, still some members have confusion about when to upload it as EOD and intraday. So if you could just please re-clarify.
So if you want the allocation change to happen immediate basis, immediately have to be effective, and it is to be immediate. If you want that allocation to change only for the purpose of EOD reporting and EOD balances and EOD files, then it has to be selected for EOD. So to avoid that confusion intraday, what we have currently done is we have not, people, if they try to do during market hours any EOD upload, we have disabled that functionality. It opens only at 4 p.m. and people can then upload at 4 p.m. for EOD. So 4 to 6 they can upload for EOD, and up till 6 o'clock they can continue to anyway upload for any immediate effect. So if they do any immediate upload, what we'll do is we'll immediately check for the margin status and upload it. In case it is an EOD, then what we'll do is that only at EOD, post the EOD margins are computed, we'll check for that and then change the allocation.
Okay. So the next question is, related to pledge securities valuation, specifically when there is a non-trading day in between. And so the member has also shared with an example that in the case of segregation report for 3rd May, which was due to the Eid holiday, the last securities file provided by the exchange was 2nd May, under which exchange had considered the price and bar of 29th April. So members want a clarity to know which days price and bar files need to be taken on 3rd May segregation, whether it should be 2nd May's closing or 29th May's closing.
So there is, I don't know, right, maybe for the reporting purpose, because for 3rd May, we generally don't have any reporting as such.
So Saturday comes typically in between. So a similar scenario happens that, the Friday file actually has Thursday's closing prices otherwise. And if I'm reporting on Saturday, whether I should use Friday's closing prices or I should use Thursday's closing prices. Maybe Renu madam can clarify.
Sorry, Khaniji, can you please repeat?
Madam, when there is a non-trading day in between and there is a valuation done, what should be the value based on? Should it be based upon the previous VAR file, which is, say, for example, if I'm reporting on Saturday, your VAR file is based on Thursday's closing prices, and on Saturday typically, otherwise I have Friday's closing price also available to me. So what should we logically be using? Should we use Thursday's closing price?
But for which data you are asking this to be reporting?
For Saturday.
What are you reporting for a Saturday? I would like to know.
When a member is confirming how much of, for example, non-cash collateral is there, how much cash collateral is there, the value of the stock somewhere, I think this is what the member is trying to ask this question. That the valuation
of the data, You are asking this value if they are reporting.
The value should be on which price is the basic query of the member. Say on the data which we report for Saturday while computing, should it be on Friday's closing price or Thursday's closing price?
It should be on Friday because previous day only you are reporting.
Right, but what happens is generally the members use the VAR file, and the VAR file has one day prior prices, so that is Thursday's closing price.
This you are saying under this again CC submission only, na?
Yes.
Collateral segregation.
Correct.
I think you should be reporting Friday only because otherwise how you will be looking at margin requirement and all, because that day only you will have to consider. Are you finding any differences?
So because during one day the prices will change slightly. So the value will change slightly. It is not a major difference, but in some edge cases it could start being.
See, anyway, on Friday, while taking exposure, etc., you have already reported. For Saturday, will it make any difference for taking exposures, etc.? Because what you are reporting to CC for giving exposure to client towards margin, you have anyway reported. So if you are reporting for Saturday, will it make any difference?
Okay, so
You may check it in case you are facing any other issue. We can check with CC also, and I can also give my side inputs also. Because Saturday reporting is not coming anywhere in use, right? You are reporting, but it is not being used for any margin or anything. So you can consider Friday balances. And again, Monday when you are reporting, then anyway you require it for margin purpose, and then you will be using also of the Friday closing prices. In case any issue has come,
we'll ask the member to come back to you and directly speak.
Yes. So that any issue they are facing, then we can resolve actually.
Okay. Next question, Josefa, is that since MG05 was discontinued and now you have COL PLS file, in that file the fungible FD and PG are shown under the all segment, and so now there is this problem which members are facing in segregating that single consolidated amount into the underlying segments. So I mean, can member use any breakup which they prefer, or there is any specific utilization basis breakup which the member should do for that number?
So now there is no instrument level segment tagging. So it's always value-based tagging. So whatever value-based allocation they have done in the respective segment, which they will anyway get it from the other reports like the CC02, where they will know segment-wise how much allocation they have done for respective clients and proprietary. And then that value can they use for the segment purpose. So whatever are the fungible bank guarantees and FDRs are now tagged into all because they can be used as a value breakup in any of the segment.
So I think Sabarwalji had a question or a point to make, and then I'll come to the most of the questions on which are in today's Q&A box, so that we can try to address them. In the meanwhile, Sabarwalji can address this question.
Sabarwalji, unmute.
I have two information to share with the honorable member. One information is that the insurance for all the exchanges, the statutory insurance for NSE, BSE, MCX, and CDX is due for all the members by 31st May. As the all honorable members are aware of, that CPI to its member is providing the insurance of all the companies free of cost. The reason is that when we take this in a bigger way, more than 500, the insurance company is offering it as a much lesser rate, while if you take it individually, you get it at a much higher rate. So all those members should see to it that their insurance renewal is due by 31st May. they should the insurance is the insurance. The CPI is going to have its annual convention, and that too in the physical mode on 28th of May in Delhi. In this annual convention, the finance minister is coming, the additional secretary, economic affairs, the in charge of SEBI and capital market in the finance ministry. He is coming. The SEBI's office bearers are there, including the whole-time member. And then all the exchanges CEOs are there. Both the depositories CEOs will also be there. And there will be, in addition to the opening session, 4 technical sessions. All of the day, there will be about 30 speakers. So we appeal to all members that they can plan for their visit, those who are from outside Delhi also, that they can come to Delhi. Any other assistance required for the outside members in Delhi, the CPI Secretariat will be happy to provide that. So this is for the information of all the honorable members that their insurance is getting due by 31st May, and CPI annual convention, though happening after 3 years, a major event, all India event, is happening after 3 years. We expect there's a good, huge response. We expect that right from Jammu to Cochin and from Guwahati to Bhavnagar, around 400 members will participate in the convention. So all the members can plan accordingly. That's all from my side. Virendraji, you can continue with your questions.
Yeah, okay. So I've just copied the questions which members have given in Q&A so that everybody can see on the screen. It becomes slightly easier. So one of the Q&A questions is margin reporting norms in case of ASM. If client ledger is 120 and span margin is 100, ASM is 30, what will be the reportable fund for this client in margin reporting?
So today in margin reporting in cash market, it is only the minimum margin which is required to be reported, collected and reported, irrespective of whether there is any ASM or not.
Okay, so it will continue to be 20%, which is the bare minimum. But in your system, how much margin will you block from the customers? Supposing client has given shares which are 200, so you will block 120 rupees from that client.
Yes, because otherwise, if I do it the other way around, the other amount has to be blocked from the member. So what we'll do is that full amount will get blocked if you have allocated to this. But in case that allocation is lesser and lesser than the full amount, but at least up to 20%, you will not have any short allocation penalty as such. But if the amount is available, then full amount will get blocked from the client's collateral only.
Okay. So the next question is, I think, from BGSC Financial, that NMAS allocation file when uploaded is getting rejected with an exception code which they have mentioned, and the same is not mentioned in the circulars.
So we have, I think people must be referring the earlier. So we updated some of the reason codes in the recent circulars of March 17. So all reason failure codes are available in the March 17 circular.
Okay, so we'll ask them to check this reason code 0105, 0102, which they are mentioning also again in the revised.
So 0105, 01102 is generally under processing. So what happens is the moment you upload the file, we acknowledge that the file has been accepted and shows as processing. Till the time it goes to the system, checks everything, processes the record and comes back, the record will show as processing.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, during trading hours, we are unable to release repledged securities so that we can give it for early paying during trading hours. Is there a constraint in releasing securities intraday?
No, so there has been no change in the release of securities. What has been going on since last 1.5 years for release of securities in batches during the day continues, sir.
Okay. So the valuation of, next question is, the valuation of GSEC T-bill is based on the closing price of the T-bills on NDS on T-1 day reduced by a haircut of 10%. But CC charges a haircut of between 2 to 7%. Client is asking for a reason of higher haircut being deducted by the broker for reporting.
Renu, you would like to answer this?
What is the question?
Madam, the question is that in case of GSEX, the minimum haircut is 10% of reporting, but the CC is taking a haircut between 2 to 7% based upon the. So members are facing an issue from their customers saying that why the haircut rate is different between what member allows the customer to trade versus what the CC permits them.
But in between, Mansukhaniji, we had clarified this to the market, wherein we said that whatever is levied by the CC would be applicable. We had clarified through one FAQ.
Okay. So we guide our member to check the FAQ so that they can
Yeah.
benefit whatever the CC is providing. So the next question is related to the new change which has come about, where the BOD span files will be used for intraday only for the peak margin computation. So now the question is, supposing in case of intraday decrease in margin requirement, a client takes a position on intraday and squares off his position before the market close, whether I mean basically the reduced margin will be applicable for this reporting, or it will be constantly the BOD span margin. So if the margin was 100 in the BOD file, subsequently became 95 and client correspondingly increased his position, will it still be computed at the rate of 100 or will it be computed at the rate of 95, which is the actual levied margin?
So I think the understanding is that irrespective of when the position is taken, the BOD span will be applicable.
Okay, so if there is a reduction in margin intraday, still member will be expected to use the previous day's market price.
Yeah. So irrespective of what has happened intraday, the expectation is that being in the span file will be used for reporting purpose.
Okay. So now a member has come with a very specific numeric query. Even I'll have to read. I think we can read together. We have a query regarding monitoring of 50% cash equivalent in segregation. Consider the following example: TM SCM prop capital is 100 cash, 40 non-cash, excess cash is 40, and excess non-cash part is like this. So client has. So according to SEBI circular, if the excess cash of can be used for offset client 1 non-cash, so total funds of 30 will be allocated to client 1. In this case, what will be the total collateral available with the CM? 160 as given by the TMCM still can't be 160 by any logic. So I guess the total limit will be 130 only. Can you just read through the example and confirm?
So basically, sir, here in this case, though, since the total non-cash in the system is 60 plus 30 and cash is 100, the full non-cash can be used by everybody. So here the proprietary will get 160 limits and the client will get 30 limit. Considering we are not considering the RRM mode. Because cash is 100, non-cash is 60 plus 30. So non-cash is lesser than the cash.
Okay, so it will be 160.
Oh yeah, 160 for proprietary and 30 for the client. But we are ignoring the 10% buffer.
Okay. Yeah, we'll ignore that. Okay, fine. I think that should have clarified. One second. Let me just read through any other questions which are coming in the chat box. So chat box questions have all been addressed. Okay, so these questions are the next question is of the margin 17 crores, prop fund is 12, collateral client collateral is 11 crore, margin used en masse is 7 crores, margin showing is 52. When we release our margin to CM, they are telling they are. So this is one of that. Last time also you had taken up. Members are trying to request for release, but they are not able to get that amount released because of high margin utilization message, and they are not able to really appreciate why this message comes to them. So maybe you could illustrate the scenarios where this kind of problem is arising to members.
So wherever basically the client's margins are more than the allocated or plus the securities value amount, and if people try to downward allocate that allocated amount, then in this case this message will come. One or two instances people have reported where even where the in cash market after the release of payment of the settlement, they are trying to download margins and they are still not able to download that. We are looking into it, but there are, I think, specific instances which are specific issues and not related to a generalistic thing. But otherwise, wherever you're getting such things, that means the total value of allocated amount plus the margin securities value is lesser than when the new number will be lesser than the margins already used by the client.
Okay. So the other question is that for a CP code client whose trades are margined at the time of trade execution and TM margin is blocked, but on T plus 0 by 7:30 the trade is confirmed by the custodian, margin benefits then accrue to the TM. In this case, how do we do allocation for the client because they are not giving any deposit? So their basic concern is, they cannot preempt how much trade their CP code or institutional client will do on a particular day, and therefore they can't, allocate that upfront as they would normally do in case of any other customer.
So here that is very clearly specified in our circular also as well as SEBI circulars. For CP clients, the executing TM need not allocate it to the client. Only the clearing entity has to allocate to the CP. So the executing entity need not compulsory allocate to the client. They have to allocate only if they have collected the margins or collateral from that client. So generally, because of the structure it is, the executing members don't collect any collateral or margin from the clients in the cash market, and it is only with the clearing member, so they need not allocate anything. It will directly get used from the proprietary margin of the member, of the executing member.
So this question got skipped in between, which is how to allocate the EPN, whether EPN is to be treated as cash or non-cash.
So there is no EPN at CC level. In CC level, wherever the early payment is received, to that extent, the margin of that security is received, which is not added to the collateral of the client or the member.
Okay, so if for example a client has sold shares of 100 and the member wants to pass on benefit of 80, he has to pass from the TM or CM prop capital. Would that be a correct understanding?
Yeah.
So what about EPN of cash?
So early payment of cash also is a similar. We just reduce the margin for which early payment of funds has been done.
So this is for specific client, basically, you will reduce it. EPN is done for specific client, basically.
Yeah, so only for those clients for whom you will do early payment and provide the allocation for to that member, for that client, that amount of margin for which early payment is done is reduced. That early payment is not added as a collateral available for trading any other or taking other further position.
Final payment से adjust कैसे करेंगे? ये तो मेरा settlement.
Okay. I know, Josefa, we have a strict clock of 1 hour and we still have a lot of questions to go by. But maybe then we can request you to give us another time, maybe same time next week, because I mean, even if we were to take 1 more hour, I don't think we'll be able to complete all the questions. But we have tried to cover the maximum questions which were common across members.
Margin तो कम कर दिया उसने.
And based upon our member feedback and request, we may request you once more to come, because I know Vikramji had specifically mentioned he's pulling you out of operations and 1 hour is kind of a hard stop. So I don't want to, hold you and hold back your operations. With this, I'll just give to Sabarwalji to for the thanks so that
NCL में query का.
put on time.
Thanks a lot, Virendraji, for very nicely compiling. We had received 120 questions. We are thankful to the members that this was our fourth interaction. In the first interaction, there were 380 participants. In the second, there were 360. In the third, we had 500 exhausted. And today, though on the screen we saw 299 maximum at a time, but more than 330 participant logs in. We are really thankful to Mr. Vikram Kothari, Mr. Hofeza and their team, and also to Madam Renu Bhandari, that they had taken out time at all the 4 occasions. And yes, a lot more things are solved after these 4 sessions. And if we will have more queries from the members, then we will certainly be disturbing them again. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Harsh.
Namaskar,
Thank you.
Nandoji. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Once again, reminder to the members to apply for the insurance, which is due by 31st May for all the 4 exchanges.
Namaskar, Sabarwal ji.
नमस्कार जी। और आर्या साहब, क्या हाल चाल है विशाखापट्टनम के?
एकदम बढ़िया सर, फर्स्ट क्लास है, अच्छे मौसम चल रहा है 2-3 दिन साइक्लोन की वजह से।
चलो चलो, गुड गुड
जी।
Thank you, sir. Thanks to the
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks to the secretariat also.